Hello everyone, I've just received my July Tag of the Month kit from Padilla of Piles of Paragraphs. For those of you that don't know Laurie is one of the admins in our Facebook group, the Mixed Media Emporium, and she has an Etsy store called Piles of Paragraphs, and one of her most popular items is her Tag of the Month kit. For those of you that follow me, you'll have seen me put several of Laurie's tag kits together. They're really good fun, very inexpensive as well, less than £6 including shipping for me to get the tag kit from the US to the UK. So let's have a look and see what's included in this month's kit. Of course, Laurie always puts a little bit of information regarding the tag kit, and she explains that the focal image this month is the Godrevi Lighthouse, which is located in Cornwall, UK. Laurie has relatives in the UK, so that's the connection there. And she says that the photo was taken by a dear cousin that lives in Cornwall. So this is the focal image that I'll be using for the project today. So let's have a look and see what's included. So we've got the focal image and some information as well about the lighthouse, and then various papers and trims and things for us to use. We've got some netting, very appropriate, some tissue paper here. I absolutely love that piece of paper. That's gorgeous. Really like that one there that looks like sand. Various blues and creams as well, all, with a sea theme. I really like this piece of paper here too, which is kind of like a speckled piece of plasticky type paper. That's fun. Some vellum. You all know how much I'm loving my vellum at the moment. Just absolutely love this string, natural type trim. I don't even know what you'd call that, but that's lovely. Some string, the tag base, and another piece of trim as well. Now, Laurie always says that you can use as much or as little of the tag as you want, and feel free to bring in your own items if you want to. So I'm just going to have a think about how I can use these items, and as soon as I've done that, I'll be straight back. Now, as always, I'm going to create my focal image first, so I'm just going to cut this out carefully. So we'll just trim around the edges like this, and we'll make this into our focal image. Okie dokie, so I've cut my image out, and I've also cut myself a piece of caddy paper as well. Now, this is more lightweight caddy paper to the ones that you've seen me use recently, and I'm going to use this to mount my focal image on. I do want to ink around the edges, but this time I'm going to use iced spruce. Recently I've been using frayed burlap, but I just think iced spruce will go better with this theme. So I'm just going to ink around the edges here. I've just used my metal ruler to tear the edges of this piece of caddy paper. Caddy spelled Khadi, which you can get in different weights. As I say, this is just a more lightweight watercolor paper. I'm going to ink around the outside of this and the focal image as well, around the edges, and I'm just going to glue everything down. I'm on the last dregs of 2 lots of glue sticks, so let's see if we've got enough in both of these to glue this all down without starting a new one. I hate to waste anything. Somebody left me a tip as well the other day, saying that if you put your glue sticks in the fridge, they're just as sticky, but you don't get the gloopiness. So I will definitely be trying that, and I've got some in the fridge as we speak. So let's have a look and see if we've got enough to apply this as well. Maybe just about. There we go, and then that one can go in the bin. So let's stick that down there as well. Now, I'm leaving a gap at the bottom because I've got an idea for a little quote as well. Now, I always like dealing with the focal image first, because then it just helps me with the colours that I'm using for the rest of the piece. So I have printed out, well, not printed out, I've cut out from the focal image sheet that Laurie provided, Godrevi Lighthouse, built in 1858 to 1859. Now, Laurie also included both of these smaller pieces of paper or cardstock in the kit as well, and I'm thinking that one of these can go across the bottom. I definitely like the lighter colour, and then I can put Godrevi Lighthouse built in 1858 to 1859. But again, I'm going to just ink around the edges, which will just neaten up my uneven cutting out, and then I can stick that down off center, just whoops-a-daisy, just like that. That's my finished focal image, so I can pop that to one side, and that's going to be the inspiration for the background that I put together. Now, I've had a play around with this, and I quite like the idea of having the bottom of the tag something like this. Now, what I do want to do is tear along the edge of this here. And then I'm going to ink this up with some frayed burlap. I don't think the ice spruce would look quite right with this colour here, so we'll just ink along the edge just to get rid of the white there, so we can have that like that. And then what I'm going to do is tear along the edge of this one here as well, and this is just to add some texture and just a bit of interest to the piece. Now I'm going to use frayed ice spruce for this, so just choosing the colours according to the pieces that I've got, so just to get rid of that that white edge. So that's that, so those can overlap something like that. And then I've got the blue piece which can go on there, and by the time that's inked around the edges there, I don't want too much of that blue, but by the time that's inked along that edge, I think that will look fine. I then want to have this piece here, and I'm just wondering as well whether I can perhaps tear along the top of this here as well, just to add some kind of a gradient. So maybe we can do this. Maybe tear along the top of this one here as well. In fact, I should have maybe glued those together first. Perhaps I should do that and then tear. I think I will. Let me just grab my glue stick again. I'm going to grab a fresh one. So where's that piece of deli paper I had earlier? I don't want to lose too much of the blue piece here, so I'm going to glue that right on the very edge. I just love this patterned paper here. I think it's beautiful. So I want to keep as much of that visible as I possibly can. Let's slide that over as much as we can get away with, about there, like that. And then we can glue this one on here like that too, because we can trim that off on the edge. So let's stick that down too, and I'm just going to use my bone folder now to make sure that's glued, wait for it to dry for a second or two, and then I can tear properly to get that gradient shape that I'm after. Those are glued together, and so now I'm just going to attempt to tear again like this, and we can tear across here too. That's a bit better. I'm happy with that now. So that can be glued onto the bottom. Now I'm trying to decide where I want this piece to go. I also need to ink across the top there as well. I think I'm going to use the frayed burlap. I'm getting confused now because I've got two different inks here in front of me. So there we go. So that can go across the bottom there like that. I think I'll slide that in underneath. So I'm going to glue this down. That's all glued down now, and I'm going to trim around the edges. Let's see what it looks like once we've done this. And I've got an idea then as to how we can finish off the rest of the background. So that's how that looks. Now, I love the vellum, so I'm going to attach the vellum to the top here like that. So let me just glue this on. I'm just going to glue this again down with a glue stick. I've got my vellum down and I've trimmed around the edges, and what I want to do now is round the corners of the tag. So I'm just going to do that first. Oops, there we go. turn it over. You always know how I like to turn it over and do it on the opposite side, just because it seems to be more even that way. I've also cut myself one of my outer tags as well, which you know that I've done with all of my other tags as well. So I'm trying to keep with that theme. I just really like the way that that looks. Now, before I start building my tag, I just want to ink around the edges just to get rid of any white and just to grunge it up a bit. So I'm just going to do this. And then I've been playing around and I know what I want to do now with the rest of the tag. So that's that. I've got this piece of netting and I'm going to add that to the bottom there, like so. So that's where that's going to go. Let me just position that in the right place. And then I want to use some of this Hessian as well. And I'm going to place that about there. And then I'm just going to apply some 3-in-1 glue over the back of my focal image, and this will hold all of those layers down. So I'm just going to try and get that all the way to the edge, applying plenty in the center so that it will hold the netting and the Hessian down. So that should do there. And then that's going to go, let me stand up so that I can do this. That's going to go there like that, and that will hold, as I say, the netting and the string in place. So I'm just going to have to weight that down for a minute or two with a heavy book. Is weighting down underneath a heavy book. I'm going to use this to make a tab at the top. I'm going to ink around the edges with some of my Memento ink, first of all in Espresso Truffle. So we'll do this on both sides just to grunge that up a little bit, and then I'm going to glue that on like that with some Fabri-Tac again. I'll just apply the Fabri-Tac just inside here, like this, and that will be enough just to hold that in place. Make sure I centralize it like so. And then I'm just going to have to burnish this down. I do hope that that glue isn't going to show through. Fingers crossed. Everything is glued in place, and I don't think you'll notice that glue by the time I've added the other elements. So that's how that will look. Now, I've got another piece of the trim that Laurie included in the kit. And what I'm going to do, I've made myself a pencil mark so that I know how big I want to cut this. I'm just going to cut that there like that and fold this one in half. Again, I just want to ink around the edges. I'm going to use some frayed burlap for that. So let's just ink around the edges here. I don't know why I'm doing the bottom, because you won't be able to see it by the time it's glued on, but that's okay. And then that is, where's it gone? That's going to go in there like so. And then I found myself the perfect little embellishment to go on there. So let me just glue that in place first. I'm thinking that maybe I need to make that a tiny bit smaller. I'm going to trim that on my paper trimmer though, so that it's nice and straight, so that it's a bit smaller. And again, I shall just apply some glue in the same way as before. Stick that down. There we go. Not too much, only a tiny bit. What have I done with the lid? So we can pop that on. I just want to make sure that that's nice and central. So that will go on there like that. It needs to move over just a tiny tad. And then before I add my final embellishment, I'm just going to stick this down with more of the 3-in-1. So there we go. Let's stick this down. I'll stand up to make sure that I get that in the right place, and I'm going to weight that down again underneath a heavy book just to make sure it grabs around the edges. It's been weighted down underneath a heavy book, so that's all glued. And I remembered that I've got these embellishments that Linda Cooper Pierce sent me in Happy Mail a while ago. These are porcelain mini tiles, aren't they? Just absolutely gorgeous. And I just think I want to use one of these just to finish off the top of my tag. I like this one here. Let me just pop these back in the bag before I lose them. Does anybody else have a habit of losing things on their desk? 1 minute it's there and the next minute it's gone. What I think I would like to do though is maybe add some of this string. It might need to be shortened slightly, but I think that would look really nice there with the tile on top. So I'm going to have a play around with that, and again just glue it down with some of my 3-in-1. So here's my finished tag using the July tag of the month kit. Again, just so much fun to play with. Now I did end up gluing my porcelain tile down with some golden regular gel medium, for the reason being that the 3-in-1 just would not hold it in place. You can see this stuff is really sticky. Mine's a bit messy inside, but it doesn't matter because it still works. This stuff is absolutely great for holding any heavy and bulky embellishments in place, and that's definitely done the trick. I really enjoyed playing with this kit. Love the look of the vellum as well, and the elements that Laurie chose for us for this month. And if anybody else is interested, I will leave the link to Laurie's Etsy store in the description box below, so Piles of Paragraphs. I've got very few bits and pieces left over again this month, just a couple of pieces of small pieces of cardstock and a tiny weeny bit of the tissue paper that I used, and this piece of trim. Now because I add my tags to my journal, I just felt that this was just a little bit too bulky, so I've opted to just use the string, and I'll save that to use on something else. But I hope you enjoyed seeing how I put my tag kit together. If you did, as always, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. Do let me know what you think in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Take care everyone, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.